And we're live. Hello, Ally.
Jen, we're live twice together this month. I can hardly contain my excitement.
I know, and very short time frames between the last time we were going live.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But that was my fault. Vacation schedule ruined the whole flow of things. But we now get to be in May twice, and not too long after we just did April's. Although now it's May, and it's like, what the heck happened to last month? It just, I don't know. April felt really fast for me. Did it for you?
I think the whole year. Like, I'm like, how is the year already 5? Like, we're in the 5th month. I don't really know how that's happened.
I got an email this morning from one of the rec departments that it was already time to register my kiddo for fall football. And I was like, I can't right now. It is May. We haven't even hit summer vacation yet. I cannot think about the fall. I feel the same way when all of a sudden you have to be booking summer camp in February. I'm I'm just getting over Christmas. Like,
yeah. But you know what? Good for your school district for doing that, because I don't know when any fall announcements will come for my child. So I feel like maybe Vermont's just a little further ahead of the game than Connecticut.
I don't know. Or there's just like a bunch of people who are really excited about football. Like, I don't know.
I feel like football's a kind of a big thing. So
I mean, I guess, but like baseball opening day is Saturday. Like, we're just barely getting to opening day.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. Yeah. Yeah. Like, spring has just arrived. And I feel like spring arrives even slower in your neck of the woods because you were so far.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. When I flew out on the 16th for vacation, they had to de-ice the plane because it was snowing. I was like, come on, Vermont, pull it together. But we have a little ounce of sunshine here with us this morning. I'm very excited about. Sunshine is like a perfect descriptor. She's like the embodiment of sunshine. We have one of our favorite authors with us to do this very special episode of Unscripted. This was not one that was planned ahead of time. This was one that we were like, oh, wait, we should do this because the fabulous Tanja Deisler is a client of both of ours. And this is like our first official book baby.
In addition to our book sisters, now it's like
we have a book baby. Yeah. So we're going to introduce Tanja. We're going to talk about her book, and then we're going to bring her onto the show so that we can talk today about just how many people it takes to bring the book to market. Really proving that publishing is a team sport. Sports. It's like we planned it. Except that we really didn't because it's unscripted. So I will do the honors of introducing Tanja, and then Jen, you tell the world about her book. And here that wonderful little dollop of sunshine comes looking fabulous in her red. Tanja Deisler, MIB, began her career at a leading American consulting firm in Germany. Being one of the few women in manufacturing and engineering consulting, she has gained unique insights that spurred both personal and professional growth. Her keen sense of observation and reflection led her to write this book to offer the guidance and advice she wished she had before she started her consulting career. She is a successful business professional and an entrepreneur at heart. Tanja is also the founder of Girl Consultant, a company that extends the book's practical wisdom to support aspiring consultants, particularly women. Her efforts focus on empowerment through mentorship and resources, making her a pivotal figure in the consulting industry. Yes. All right, Girl Consultant. Let's talk about it. Go for it, Jen.
All right. So, Girl Consultant, a woman's playbook to jumpstart a career in business and consulting, is a witty and entertaining book that takes you on an engaging journey through a fast-paced world of consulting and prepares you to rock your first 2 years in the field. With an exciting and lucrative career spanning multiple countries, she shares her hard-earned wisdom and lessons learned so you can skip the mistakes and fast-track your success. Filled with real-life anecdotes, humorous confessions, and life hacks ranging from travel tips to dressing for success, Tanja provides a no-holds-barred review of consulting as a career choice. She also addresses the challenges women face in the industry, empowering readers to stay authentic and true to themselves. How incredible is that? Delighted. Thank you, Tanja.
Thank you. Thank you for the lovely introduction. It's amazing. So here it is. For everybody.
Ally, you muted yourself. This is a thing of beauty and gorgeous.
I know. Tanja, can you just flip through the innards?
Yeah.
The cover is gorgeous, but also I love the inside of your book. Like, it's just
this is the
so beautifully designed.
But this is the black and white version.
Yeah.
So we have like
Okay.
little
Show us one of those illustration pieces that's in there.
Good.
Like the full page.
Obviously, we're both incredibly biased. Yes.
Yes.
That's so
Yeah. Oh, I love. Okay, so let's start here. When Tanja came to me to get some help with coaching and manuscript development, Tanja, you had a vision. I mean, like, you had a very specific vision of how you wanted this book to look. Do you remember those conversations?
Yeah, I do. And I still have the book here somewhere. I think, yeah. Yeah, I really remember it was a so I had the vision. I wanted to originally just do a quick flip through guide of like tidbits of that you can read through, and like a coffee table book in a very visually appealing way, and with call out boxes and things. And then I started with Ally, and Ally was like, okay, and she listened and she was like, okay, that sounds like a great plan. And then I remember being so delusional at the beginning and being like, yeah, I'm going to be doing it in 6 months, tops. And remember that?
Yes. I do remember that. And I think I smiled and nodded and said, well, we can certainly try, which was kind of a half-assed agreement, because in my head, I thought there's no way. But I want to take everybody's gusto in the beginning, thinking they're going to cruise through it, and like give them well, there's no harm in trying. We can always extend the deadline if we need to. But I remember we very distinctly, there was the Gentleman's Guidebook to something.
Yeah.
Is what we looked at for visual instruction. This was like a very funny, sassy, like not to be taken too seriously guide. But we loved this kind of like illustrative vibe and like just really fun design that kind of elevated the content of the book. And Tanja had that vision from the very beginning. And so I think that it's really interesting that sometimes people's visions evolve, right, from when they begin something to when it gets published. But there were definitely some very specific pieces of your vision, Tanja, that stayed throughout the process, and that we kept, kind of kept our eyes on as we developed. And so a lot of those call out features that you wanted, remember when we were doing the manuscript development, we came up with like tea time, like explain some of the different features of the book that are in there. Because it's not just straight up like chapter content.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I try to break the book up a little bit to also, present the theory and to explain things for people who are not in the industry, because that's really important. Because if you want to motivate somebody to go into the industry, it's really important that you explain everything. And then I also wanted to add my own stories. Because obviously there's a lot, and they're not always, the best of the best. But also because it's supposed to be a lessons learned book, right? So it's basically what I wish I would have known, like what I wish I knew before going into consulting. And so my lessons learned, they are always under the call out tea time, because T stands for truth. And so you get ready, you get your cup of tea, and then you listen, you can read what I was up to, and then obviously there's always like a lessons learned out of that, and what I did wrong. So don't be like me, but be better. Be like, not don't be like me, but do it properly. And then we also have call outs, which is the Girl Consultant life hack. That's basically like knowledge nuggets, and it says, this is, for example, like also we have a couple of TED Talks in there, so if you want to practice, or then what you should know. And then we also have call outs. So if you don't know, now you know. This is basically an explanation of the keywords, because I remember, Ally, you were like, what is this? And what is that? What does this mean? And what does that mean? So obviously for me, it was very clear what it meant, because again, I was like, it's been a long road. It was I was 7 years in consulting. So obviously I know what it means. But then for somebody from external, it was a bit difficult. And we decide, I mean you decided basically, Ally, that this book should be really a comprehensive guide to becoming a girl in consulting. And that's exactly what we did. And this is why it also, from my vision, from 100 little pages, it grew into nearly, what are we, like nearly 350 pages. Yeah.
Okay, so you had way more to say than what those initial 100 pages originally offered. Okay. Like you're like a fountain of knowledge. And from what I remember of those first 100 pages, which were based off of blog posts that you had written during the time you were in consulting, right?
Yeah.
There was a lot of gaps to fill. Like too much information was missing from those 100 pages, which is how it ended up expanding into something like so much longer than what you originally intended with. So like, let's go back to like the very beginning. So we kind of started where you started talking to me and you had a vision for what the book would look like in the long run. But like truly your vision of this book began before we even met. So like, when did the book writing journey actually start for you?
So it actually started when I was in my first year in consulting. It's more than 15 years ago now. And it was, I think writing was for me a little bit like a therapy, because so I wrote down all the things that, I should have done better or differently. And I was like, okay, this is going to be my lessons learned blog. And back in the day, we had blogs. So everybody wrote a blog. Obviously, I also wrote a blog. And then I was writing it, even though the job was stressful, but I was still writing it. There was always time to write this. I was like on a bus or on a plane or somewhere. And then I just wrote it in my notes app on my phone. And that's how then these little blog posts came about. And then I had an attempt to write a book, and then honestly they accumulated, and I had so many, and then I was like, you know what, it would be really cool to just put them all together and have like a nice book. And then I attempted one vacation to write a couple of pages or a chapter or whatever, and I sent it to somebody who actually also loves to read and write books, who's never published one, by the way. He really needs some, he never had the he's written a bunch, but he's never really published one, right? But so I sent it to him, and he was like, you know what, this is all over the place. So thank God for like honest feedback, He was like, this is all over the place, like it doesn't make any sense, and then why are you jumping from here to there, and then it has no structure, and then it's a present tense, and then all of a sudden you're in the past tense, and then the dialogues don't make any sense. And I was like, all right. Okay, I think I'm going to need help to write this. If I really want to write this, I really need help. And then I met you, Ally, through a friend of mine who had a friend who wrote a book now. I don't even know, but she was in contact
even remember.
Did you,
I have no idea.
You're not writing it or not? Yeah. And then I remember the first meeting I had with you, and I was like, yeah, this is it. I don't need to look any further, And it was so cool. I remember like chatting to you. I loved your energy and your wit and your sass and everything about you. And I was like, okay, I want to be best friends with her. I need to work with her, That was basically the
jumped
start.
right in. Like it wasn't very long after that conversation that we started working together. But what I love about that origin story is I think it highlights something that's so true for so many people, which is that like between the time that they have the initial idea to write a book and the time that they get really serious about doing it can often be a very long period of time, right? Yeah. Like you started to get the nudge, like maybe this will be something someday, like as early as your first year in consulting. But how many years had passed by the time you were actually sending it to the friend who told you that it was all over the place?
Yeah, at least like 10 years.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So then when you think about that, and then from there until publication, it's been what, 3?
Yeah. It's been 3.
So long time in the making, really. But three solid years of like manuscript development through the publication process. Now, people watching, not everybody does it the same way. So you're not looking at a 15-year endeavor necessarily. But this is just to go to show that sometimes good things take time, but also good things take people, right? And the right
Yeah.
people. So the first person on your path, Tanya, was really the trusted friend that you sent the manuscript to, who was like,
Yeah.
no, right? And that gave you
Yeah.
the sense like, okay, I need to work with someone. So when you went out on your search to look for the person to work with, were you looking for a coach? Were you looking for an editor? Did you know who you were looking for? Were you just waiting to stumble upon the right person?
Well, I knew I needed help, but I just really didn't know what I was looking for. So I have a couple of also friends who are writers in LA, and then one person suggested a Facebook group, and then I posted I posted what I wanted to do, etc. And then many people came back and were like, okay, I can do the editing, I can do the copywriting, I can do this and this and this and this. And I was like, no, I need somebody to help me write it, like not write it for me, but to help me and support me and structure and just help me, guide me through the writing process. Because I'm not a writer per, I didn't study it or anything, right? So, and then the term, I think, book coach came up. So I think I looked at a couple of people, and then they did send me some, they really did send me, I think like 3 people or something. They did send me some stuff that they had, done, but it was not a vibe. So I didn't really, you know, jump onto it. And then I was a bit also insecure about who I'm going to hire. It's also it's a lot of money also, right? So, and if this was the right person, is this what I really needed, and so on. And then I just started asking around in my friend group and was like, okay, so, what do you think, like, this and this? And then, as I said, my friend, she suggested that I speak to her other friend, because she's already 2 steps further down this road, right? So that was basically then the way how I did it. Because back then we didn't have ChatGPT, and you couldn't ask, hello, I want to write a book and I have this issue, please solve it for me, And then maybe ChatGPT would have said, get a book coach, that's the one you need, no, you don't need an editor or copywriter or something like that. Yeah. So it's always like this. Look, the people, in every walks of life, it's always like, it looks so easy from the outside, in quotation marks, right? But there's so much detail to it. Even the publishing process. It's wild. I didn't know half of the things, So it, if you really want to create something really good, you just really have to put some effort into it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad that you touched on that, because I think for those of us who love to read, not everybody who loves to read knows what goes into producing the book that they're picking up at the store and taking home with them. So it looks like this, little 8.5 by, 9 final product with a beautiful cover and some words inside. But like, most people aren't aware of all the steps along the way. I think a lot of people imagine a writer somewhere drafting and redrafting and whatever. And I think some people to some extent recognize that it might have been edited, but like, they don't know the minutia of like what goes into producing, producing a book. And so for first time authors like yourself, it can be a very overwhelming, initiative to take on, because it's a whole industry. It's multiple different avenues. There's tons of different ways that you can do it. And there's 1,000 steps from, drafting to publishing. I think you learned a lot just in the manuscript development about how iterative the process can be.
Yeah. And I think, it really taught me patience, and also that if you want to do something 100%, you just need to go back onto it. And I'm usually an 80-20 person, right? I'm like, okay, 80% is good enough, because that's how you develop speed, right? So if you want to move fast in an industry, in a job, and in things, right, you do 80%, you're like, okay, look, and then you put it together with other people, or maybe you also just send it off as 80% done, because you just don't have the time, right? But here it was, and then also, growing up, it was always like, okay, if I don't know how to do this, like yesterday, it's my first time doing it, but if I don't know how to do it like instantly, I'm not going to do it, So I never had, even in school, I never had the patience to reread my exams. I should have just done it. I could have had so much better grades, right? But I've never had this patience of going through stuff, you know, and like double checking and triple checking and so on. And this, because I never had the patience, I was like, okay, I'm done with it. Done. You know, like 80-20 style. So basically this book really helped me to actually also understand that it's good to redo something and to redo it again and think about it. And then, I mean, I must have written all these stories, you know, from the beginning on. I knew I had to rewrite them, you know. I didn't know I had to rewrite them like 50 times at least, you know. Like, because from the very beginning, like some of the stories, they were like a bit bitter also, you know, a bit like angry, mad. And then I was like, yeah, I don't even want to reread this. Like, how is anybody else going to want to reread this, right? So I knew I had to rewrite it and make it like more fun and more entertaining, right? But then I had no idea, you know, I was going to be here and have rewritten the book and reread the book also a million times.
Yeah. How many times, if you had to guess, how many times did you have to read it from cover to ensure that you caught all of the typos and all of the changes needed? Just ballpark guess.
I think like at least like 25 times. So
I mean, I think I looked at it at least 4.
Yeah.
And that was before, Jen, your team would have tagged in and done another review or all the different layers of editing, which I imagine Tanja then had to also review. So like,
and then typesetting.
Yeah. And so like if she and I looked at it 4 times, but she was also looking at it on her own repeatedly before I was even getting to it, like she definitely looked at it a dozen times just with me. I can't remember which chapter it was, but there was one chapter that I'm pretty sure was making Tanja homicidal. It was not coming out the way that she wanted. And I just remember like really frustrated Voxers. Like, I don't know what it is about this chapter that I can't figure out what I'm trying to say and like how to make this clearer. And it always seems like with my clients, there's always like one chapter that's like the bane of their existence. But that just goes to show how much effort Tanja was putting in behind the scenes. Like in between the times that I was looking at it, she was going back through with a fine-tooth comb and rereading, reorganizing, restructuring, you know, trying to think about it from a different lens. And then I think before she and I were done, we had the beta readers, and then she was going back through, right? You know, kind of changing things based on beta readers. I mean, there was a lot of time and energy put into it before Publisher Purpose, you know, got involved. But I think, so you had like going back to the theme of today, right? It's a team sport. So you had the initial friend who kind of gave you that first feedback. You had all the people who kind of pointed you the direction of needing a book coach. You had me, then you had 5 beta readers. I can't remember.
I think I had like 7 or 8 even.
Yeah. There was a lot of beta readers.
Yeah, but they all didn't make it past like the midpoint of the book. So I think some people read it through. I mean, and then, but like the most comments I had was on the first part of the book. And then the second and fourth, like the third and fourth part was just not, they didn't really have that many comments.
Yeah.
But I think the first 2 were the most commented on. Huh?
That's what you want. You want as few comments as possible because that means that you did your job.
Yeah, but it also shows, you know, probably that, you know, as you write along, you get better at it, obviously. Yeah. And then, you know, I also recorded it as an audiobook. So that was also, I reread everything again as well. So yeah, so I think, I mean, it is true that now after having worked on this so many hours, I do feel more comfortable. I think it's the first book is always the hard one. That's what everybody tells me. And then if you want to write a second or third one, you're kind of in it, you know how to structure things, you know, and it's just easier. And also writing is easier, I think. I mean, obviously
better expectations of the process, right? Because I think that's the hard part, is that you're coming into the process and you're really just hoping that whoever you've connected with can really guide you along in a way that feels good and right for you, versus, you know, being thrown to the wolves or trying to self-publish. And I think that's why, you know, like self-publishing, I know Ally and I are both proponents of, but also there's just so many steps that it's really hard to kind of get lost in that process. So imagine if you tried to do this completely independent of support systems. Yeah.
Well, and
I would not.
Yeah.
I mean, alone the fact that, so as a consultant, I know what a customer journey is, but then having the, having the transfer knowledge and being like, yes, so this is also you need to put your storyline on a customer journey, if you're not writing a novel, for example, right? But and then that's the first thing we did. And I was like, oh my God, I would have never thought of it, like ever. Even though I know how to do it, but like I would have never thought of it, right? So it's that from the beginning, it's like really setting you up for a structured way on how to actually achieve, like manage to write a coherent and cohesive. And also, I mean, I struggle towards the end. You're always like, no, the introduction to the chapter is not good enough. You need to do it again. And it doesn't make any sense, And I was like, oh my God, not again, and then so like stuff like this. And then, but reading it again now, when I read it, like the last version of it, when everything was done for the audiobook, I actually really, really, really enjoyed it. It was very cool. And I was not sick of it yet, surprisingly, right? So, because I know at one point you're like, I can't read it anymore. But I really, really enjoyed it. So that was actually really great.
Well, that's a sign that you've done what you need to do to get there, right? Like my whole thing is like, if you get done reading a manuscript version and you're still feeling kind of like, meh, it's fine, then we're not there yet, right? Like, because this is like your book going out into the world, and you need to be in that space of like, I'm so proud of what I put together. Because you're the spokesperson on the other side. Like, you're going to be your book's best salesperson. And if you're feeling kind of neutral about it, right? Like, nobody's going to want to pick it up, because even you don't seem that excited. So as much as like, I hated to have to go back and be like, nope, we're still not where we need to be. I really was like, no, like the end game here, the end goal is for her to walk away from this feeling ridiculously proud of what she's produced, and like being able to stand by it without question.
Yeah, especially it's everywhere. Jen, I don't know how you did this, but like it's everywhere. You can buy it everywhere. Like, you Google my name and it's like it appears everywhere.
Magic.
Yeah, but I know you were like, bibbidi babbidi boo, and surprise. And so I think, but it's also representative for, like, it stands, if I'm publishing it with me on the cover and my face and my name, it needs to be really good.
Yeah, and you have to have the confidence, right? Because even the photo shoot and the photos, like deciding which photo to use on the cover, like was a whole kind of process unto itself. And in even that photo, if you want to show it up, I would love to kind of hear your thoughts on that process of deciding. But like even that photo just emphasizes confidence, right? So to Ally's point, that if you're the one that's on there and you are confident, like you need to, your words need to match the words in the book, your spoken word and the visuals.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, the photo shooting, that was like a whole nother thing. I mean, it was actually, so originally, I had a very different vision of the book. It was going to be me in a suit, and then thank God for good friends, So my one friend, she's actually a wedding photographer, and she's just so good at capturing emotions. And I was like, girl, you got to do my photo shoot, for the cover. And she was like, yeah, okay. So I went to her house, and then my business partner now for the business that I have also, started recently, she was like, yeah, let's hijack the shoot and also make it a shoot. Like, you do your cover, and then we will do a shoot for our company, Red House of Collagen. So basically, this was not an outfit I had planned for my cover shoot. This was an outfit I had planned for later, right? So basically, and the background was also, I wasn't planning on being red, but surprisingly, so I mean, red is, because it's called Red House of Collagen, the new company that we have. So red is our, the logo is red and everything. So we're like, okay, we need a red background. So it's actually by chance that we shot so many outfits and so many different positions. And Jen and Ally, you guys helped me, and you were like, this is so hard, and like this, that. And then I have very good friends, and they were all telling me, the girls, right? So I asked a couple of guys as well. They really didn't like this picture because they were like, no, she's too confident, can't be. And I was like, this is a typical answer from guys as usual, right? So I was like, let's just focus on the girls. And everybody then and then I got different comments back, you know. So some of them, when I was wearing a suit and I was laughing to the camera, my friend was like, "Oh, this sounds like this looks like you're giving a comedy special," you know. And I was like, okay, maybe also not. And then the other one is like, "Oh, this is giving worker bee." Okay, because it's also not, you know, worker bee. So every girl I have in my friend group decided that this was going to be the one. Right. And then also it was a whole cover design wise, because we had me zoomed out as well, because the picture is actually bigger and I'm walking. But then I was like, okay, there was also like, I think it was 4 days that went into trying to figure out how to place the font and this and that. And it was a whole story. So I'm actually really happy it came out like this, because I think even though it's red, and I'm not wearing a suit, I think
it makes you more
come.
relatable.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Well, and you do spend some time in the book itself talking about fashion as a woman in consulting, right? And while there are some things about suits and blouses and stuff like that, you also have that really incredible story of the woman who showed up to speak at the company that day in the red dress.
Yeah.
Right. And you do a whole kind of narrative and commentary around, like, once you get to a certain place, either in your career or in your confidence level, then what you wear and how you show up as a professional are not necessarily these like separate boxes. Right. So I feel like the ethos of what that picture represents on the cover is what you are trying to say in the book, even if you might not recommend a first-year consulting professional be, you know, strutting up to the office and whatever they feel like, right? But that's what you aspire for them to be confident and bold and authentic, right? And so I feel like that's how you're coming across on the cover image. And so, I mean, this just goes to show all the just the layers and decision making that has to go into producing a cover, right? Because there's the photo shoot aspects, but then it's what the photo means, and then it's where do you place the text, and how does that all come together for, like, you know, hooking the reader? What does it say about the content? I mean, there's like all these pieces involved. And so just with the cover design alone, you've got a photographer, you might have a graphic designer who's taking the photos, right, and then doing something with them from that. You've got the people looking at the cover for typos, spelling, grammar, punctuation, right? And that's just the front cover. What does your back cover look like?
This one was,
Yeah. So then all of that word real estate on the back cover requires somebody to write the marketing copy. You have the endorsers that you have to get. You've got the bio you have to provide. You've got some other engine that you need to go get the barcode from. You know, I mean, there's a world of things that go into just the cover of a book.
Yeah, 100%.
That's why it takes a village, right? Like that's exactly why that's what we title this, because there are so many moving pieces and parts. And I think a lot of times when people think of the process, they think of cover, they think of editing, and they think of the physical book. Those are the three things that I think people think about. All of the 955 steps in between those things, you know, you're not even thinking about. And why I think self-publishing folks sometimes miss the point is because they're so focused on those big boulders of, you know, editing or cover. And then even within that, they don't know what the best practices are. They don't know how to make sure, like, especially like the cover conversation we're having, to make sure that you're really conveying to your ideal reader and audience all of the things that need to be said, both verbally and then in the imagery. And so, you know, I think that that's why having a support team is really so important.
100%.
Well, so
I'm also so grateful that that I got to, because I got to also have a say in my cover. You know what I mean? Even though it was so much work for me, but nevertheless, I was so grateful. And then that you, Jen, and PYP supported in like the right things, because I would have never known how to put this together, you know, or how to like register the barcode. This would have taken me probably a month to figure out by myself. And then also just to design that I got to decide the things that that were important for me, but then I could leave all the rest to you. And then I would know that it's it's good, like it's amazing. Like everything is in its right place. It looks great. It's like, it's up to standard, when I was like talking around this space and you were like, no, this is for the ISBN number. So you can't put anything there, so it was so great to work on this together and to really also have the creative possibilities in this and a creative say.
And I think that's the mark of a good publisher, not PYP specific statement, but just generally, of a publisher who's going to be collaborative and really allow you as the author to have your creative vision come through. Because there are plenty of publishers out there that don't really care what the author has to say. They're going to say, well, we know better. We're going to do it this way. And you kind of lose that opportunity. So I think that both the exterior of your book, also the interior. I know you're holding the black and white version, but the color version is absolutely gorgeous. Like, it is truly gorgeous. And there's such a consistency and cohesiveness. It's not always the case either, because there's a lot of publishers who will just kind of take their standard template. This is the way that we do a nonfiction book, and then don't really allow for the author to provide those additional kind of design aesthetics that they might want. Or if you do, end up having to charge a bunch of extra money because of these embellishments or enhancements. So I think that's something for, folks who might be watching this, is where, I think that Ally, our goal is always to educate authors and really kind of help people see what those pitfalls might be down the road, or unexpected roadblocks. And so I think that something like that, if you have a strong creative vision, you want to have a support team that will help you, because sometimes we know we have it in our head, but we cannot articulate it. And then also not have all these hidden fees because you're trying to execute something that is outside of their templates.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I actually took so much inspiration from your book, Jen, because your book is done so beautifully. The one, this one, the Publish with Purpose one, it's done so well with all the, different colors and etc. And I was like, wow, this looks so amazing. So also not to overdo something, but to do it in like the right way, that it actually really looks elegant and that it elevates everything. So I thought that was really great also. And then Jen, like, I really want to say, I was so impressed by the way, like both of you actually, but Jen, like the way you structured everything, it's amazing. It's so much fun to work with you, like, because you have a, you have something, you have a video, a tutorial for everything. It's not too long, it's not too short, and that was so great. So even if I had to rewatch something, that was amazing. And all the knowledge is there, right? So if I wasn't really interested in something, but I, not right now, but maybe in like a month, that was important, then I got to watch that and know everything about it. Mm-hmm. And that was something I also really liked with you, Ally, because I mean, it was just so cool the way you were like structured and the way we recorded everything, the way you took notes and everything. It was amazing. I just really want to thank you guys for like the really, really making it so easy for me to do this next to work, and actually manage to understand everything and not have to do my own research, right? Mm-hmm. That was really great.
Ally, I think that's like our superpower of our collaborations, is that we both are so structured and so kind of wanting to empower and educate authors from start to finish. And to do that, you have to have the right resources in place. And I love kind of what you just said about the, like you kind of go to it when you need it. And I think that is a helpful component of all of this too, is that you want to find a publisher who will kind of work with you at your own pace and give you those opportunities to say, all right, we want your design vision. Great. Let's figure out how to execute it. But you don't need to worry about a barcode. You don't need to worry about an ISBN number. You don't need to worry. So that way it kind of gives you you're off the hook from having to worry about some of the minutia. Or if you want to be involved in the minutia, have at, right? And everyone's a little bit different, because some authors really want their hands in every single piece in every single period everywhere. And other authors are a little bit more hands-off, and they're like, you know what, you're the experts. You just tell me what you want me to do. And I think all of those are fantastic, right? You just need to have a publisher that matches your needs and your process, your desired process.
Well, or you choose to go down a certain path based on your needs. So like somebody who wants to be involved to that degree on every single step might actually like the self-publishing route. I mean, because then they're having to be involved in every single step, because they're going and finding all the people that they need for each individual piece. And therefore they have to be up to their eyeballs in the details, right? Or working with an independent press that's kind of doesn't have as many of the bells and whistles. And so, they have to be involved to make sure that everything is happening. I think for an author who's like, yes, I want to know and I want to be educated, but I don't necessarily want to have to like pull all the levers and push all the buttons, right? Like hybrid publishing is beautiful for that because you've got a team of professionals who are going to do all that for you, but still keep you informed, still allow you to be the decision maker, still allow you to control vision, right? But you're paying for a premium service, you're paying for professionals. And I think that's where I would want to underscore for like today's conversation, given our theme, is that no matter what route you take, there are a dozen people that are going to touch this book if you're doing it the right way. Mm-hmm. If you are self-publishing, but you're doing everything yourself, I beg you to stop and just stop. Like, don't do that. Because you won't end up with the right quality book that you're setting out for, or you'll inevitably end up with something that you're not as proud of on the other side, or doesn't sell as well because the quality is bad, or you forgot something or didn't think of something, whatever it is. But it's also true of even when you're picking a publisher, there are a dozen people within that place that are going to touch your book. So what I would love to know in time that remains is, once Tanja got handed over to you, Jen, how many touch points or how many people did Tanja interface with for her project? And maybe, let's each of you put out a number. Let's see how close you get. So Tanja, how many people do you think you interfaced with through Publish Your Purpose after we were done and you went on to Jen?
Well, okay, so I had my project manager, right? So I interfaced a lot with my project manager. But then if I would have to guess like what my project manager had to do with, I'm going to say at least like, I don't know, 10 people.
Yeah, I would say 8. Yeah. Yeah. So like our goal is to make it so it's not overwhelming for the author. So that way you have your one point of contact, who is the one who is the spider web weaving in all of the other directions. So yeah, there's at least about 8. And because it really takes a full village, because you have your, like the project manager, who is the knowledge base of everything, and then the typesetter and the cover designer and the copy editor and the proofreader, and like just kind of the list keeps going on. The copywriter for the book description, the person who's getting all of the metadata gathered together, the person who's actually uploading the book into the system. So there's a lot of moving pieces and parts. Like, I know our project plans, like we allocate 90 project management hours to getting a book published, 90 hours, which I often say to people, like, again, if you're evaluating like what path might you want to take, if it's 90 hours and this is what we do day in and day out, imagine how many hours that's going to be for you when you have no idea what you're doing and no roadmap to how to get there. Yeah, it's a lot.
Plus you find the people, you have to negotiate the salary or like the price, how are you going to know if it's a good quality person, right? And then you have to interview them. So, I mean, it's just so much more.
Yeah. It's like never ending. I mean, I kind of did that with my first book, and just remembering makes me cringy. How did I do it? Because with Dear Universe, I get it now. That was my first one. I did pick what was considered an independent press, but they were a very small operation. So they did like the things that I absolutely knew I didn't want to have anything to do with. So like Ingram account setup, Amazon account setup, the barcode, an ISBN registration, the metadata, like all of those things. But that was it. I had to go get my own cover designer. I had to get my own interior typesetter. I had to get my editor. I had to review all of that. I had to follow up with people. Like, I had to make sure that everything was all hunky dory. Like, I had to set up my own street team, and then all the other things that come with like getting ready to like launch the book. And at the end of the day, when I counted all the dollars that I spent on all of the individual services, and then, of course, took into consideration my own time for project managing my book or whatever, it would have been the same cost if I had just gone to one larger publisher that had all of those things incorporated. The biggest difference was really how I paid. Like, that was it. Self-publishing at the time allowed me to only have to pay the people I needed at the time that I needed them, which is what made it possible for me to do that book, because I didn't have to put down a huge lump sum at that time. And I was really early on in my business, so I didn't have, a huge lump sum to just toss down. but the amount that I spent would have been comparable to choosing a hybrid publisher today, right? And like just picking a lane and letting the professionals, handle it all once the manuscript was done, without me having to worry necessarily about vetting individual people and then worrying about if they were on track with their timeline so the next person could do their thing. So there's so many steps and so many folks that are involved in doing it well that it's like, make it easy for yourself if you can.
And I think sometimes I just had an author say this to me on Tuesday, and she was complimenting Alexander on our team and saying, she's like, I just love being managed. I just need you to tell me what to do next. And she, runs a really successful consulting company. And so for her, similar to you, Tanja, right? Like you don't have all the time in the world to be getting your hands dirty in minutia. That really it's not strengthening your knowledge base or your skill set for any future endeavors. Like, it's a whole industry onto its own. So I just love that phrasing of like, because I also love being managed. Like if I have a product, like you just tell me where I need to go and what I need to do. I would much prefer that than trying to find and piecemeal and sort things out. So I would say if someone's trying to, decide what path they want to go, if they're really looking to be managed by somebody else and by a team, I think a route that is hybrid or even traditional is going to be much more advantageous than self or even independent potentially.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, Tanja, are you going to write another book?
Well, I mean, I could be writing about my entrepreneur story, how to be an entrepreneur. But so far, I haven't like I've learned a lot from this, from my consulting career. So I'm not doing as many mistakes as I used to. But definitely, I mean, I also really love it that Jen, that just also to point out, like with the typesetting, we went back and forth, and then we had to push back the launch date a little bit, but it was also fine because I was also committed on this book, and I was like, okay, so if I'm going to do this, I really want to do it, put 100% of it in it, like all my effort, and just make it 100%, right? Not because sometimes I'm also like, oh yeah, that's a mistake, but nobody's going to notice, right? And then, you know what I mean? And it's just not, I was like, no, it needs to be, it should be 100%. That's also with when I recorded the audiobook, I at the end, towards the end, I just kept reading, and I thought, nobody's gonna notice. It's gonna be fine, even though I was just eating some words. And then I re-listened to it, and I was like, yeah, no, we have to redo this part, because I thought I would get away with it, but in the end, you can't. If you're gonna put something out there, you might as well work with professionals and make it really good.
Yeah. And, I think of like, I can't wait to get a physical copy of your book in my hands because I'm so excited for the potential impact on people, right? Like, because it is it is a guide. Like, it is not a tiny little throwaway type of thing. It is 350 pages. So, and you cover so much ground in it. And I think from like the same thing, like you were just saying, where I want to be just as proud of any book that we publish as you are as the author. So I don't want to look at something because I'm a lot of times like the last set of eyes that's looking at something to just make sure that like, because I'm removed enough to be able to see like, oh yeah, there's something glaringly wrong with this. Because I want to be able to hand this out to somebody or talk to somebody and know with confidence that we have done everything we can to reduce any amount of, especially typos. I don't like them, but they sneak through every now and then, right? Like it's just kind of the nature of this process. But I want to be as proud of this, and I want our team to be as proud of this as you are as the author. And I think that's something, and I know, Ally, you feel that way from a writing standpoint. And it's not everybody in this industry that operates like that, which is why, Ally, you and I think get along so well and have such aligned values.
Yeah. Well, and I think for people watching this, if they're still picking out their team, like you want the team who wants to be just as proud as you are of the book, who are going to also be crossing their T's and dotting their I's and also being able to acknowledge their shortcomings, right? Like, at some point for me as a coach and developmental editor, I stopped seeing the manuscript. Like, that's just the nature of it. It's the same thing with an author. Once you are in a manuscript as many times as I tend to be or the author tends to be, you can't see your own blind spots anymore, right? So I remember during the pass-off stage of Tanja's book specifically, I said to you, Jen, I said, okay, I'm pretty sure that the manuscript is as developed as we can get it. I said, but I honestly don't know anymore. Like, I can't see it any longer. Like, I think that we've thought of everything. I think that we've done our due diligence, but like, yeah, your team should have at it. Like, they should do a developmental audit just to make sure that Tanja and I as a team haven't overlooked something, right? And that's because my ego isn't such in the way that I'm going to just automatically say, oh yeah, what we created is perfect. But that's also because I feel like my ass is on the line as much as the authors when it comes to producing a really good book. If I'm supposed to be the expert guide and I pass on a manuscript too soon and it's only, 3/4 of the way there, that doesn't make me feel like I've done my job. It doesn't make me feel like I've done right by the author. And I get just as excited to have my author's books on my shelf as my own, because I'm in there with them in the trenches for months. I care just as much about the long-term success, even though I'm no longer the spokesperson, after a certain point in time. And I feel like that's what authors need in the industry is they need the cheerleaders. They need the people who are in there. They're not in it for the credit, but they're in there for the author to be as successful as possible.
Yeah. And Ally, what you just said about permission, like that's how I just interpreted what you said of like, you gave us permission to do what was necessary to make this shine even further than the two of you had already gotten it. Because there are plenty of ghostwriters, because we had this happen with somebody who spent a lot of money working with a ghostwriter. And we made the assumption, because the ghostwriter was like, this is great. Like it really, should really be able to go straight into copy editing, be good to go. And we took this ghostwriter at face value, which we've learned since not to do. And it was so disorganized and there was no logical flow to it that when it got to copy editing, the copy editor sent it back and they were like, we can't, like this is really in disastrous shape and we really need to start with developmental editing. And then that puts me in a really hard position because now it's like, I don't want to throw the ghostwriter under the bus because they did make an investment in working with that person, but it also wasn't up to par. So Ally, when you were like, have at, like really take a good look at it and decide what it needs, it's refreshing to be like, yes, like the ego is not the one running the show. And that feels really good from a publisher standpoint.
No, not at all. I mean, the other thing too is like, I owe that to Tanja. Even if I risk Tanja being like, what the, you didn't lead me the right way. You said this was going to be done. And now Jen's team saying that it's not, right? I'm going to take the walloping then like have you just smile and nod at me because it's me and be like, oh, well, Ally did it. So we're just going to assume that it's fine and like push it through to the end. And then we get a final product that then Tanja's embarrassed by, right? Like, ick. Like, no, I would rather take the hard shot, right? Like in the beginning to realize that maybe something's still undercooked and fix it than like get all the way to the end and then have everybody feel embarrassed or that something was forgotten or overlooked or like, whatever. So, I mean, we're all humans in this process, right? Like in any project that we do, we're human. So while there's lots of painstaking effort that goes into developing a manuscript, if we just start to assume it's good, it's fine, like then we're really missing the opportunity to make it even better. Because once the outside objective party comes in to look at it with fresh eyes, they see things, right, that the rest of us haven't been able to see in months because because Tanja's looked at it 25 times, and I'm like, I don't know, I think it's okay, but I'm so exhausted. Like, and this is why having a good team is just so important. And
it's also I sometimes I read because I get really excited, right, if other people write books, right? And then sometimes now that I've been in this process of writing for 3 years, and well, 2 years, I think 1.5, and then 1.5. But sometimes I read a book from a self-published author, and I was like, man, you could have done so much better. Like I even see it, and I was like, this could have been. This part of the story could have been so much more elaborate, and then this storyline could have been like this and this and that. And I mean, it's not bad whatever people write, right? It's not sometimes people write really good stuff, but also sometimes I am already seeing stuff, and then I'm like, I wish they would have, if you are going to put the effort into writing a book, which is also not a thing you do on a Saturday afternoon, for
We hope.
You know, so okay, maybe you do, Ally, because you know you're like
I don't. I don't.
but you know what I mean. If you already put that much effort into it, then like just do it. Just like go for gold, you know, and just make it really good.
I think that is true, though, that like, I mean, I don't know if it's me doing this or if it's just the nature of publishing, but I think I kind of ruin reading for my authors.
100%.
I ruin reading for my authors because I educate and they become such good writers and editors in the process of working on their own books that they start to read other people's books and then they can see what's wrong, right? They can see like, oh, this chapter doesn't make sense, or like the story lacks, emotion, or, it lacks organization, or their argument is only half baked, right? Like, you end up studying the writing in other books after you've done it yourself because you know so much more than you did when like you embarked on it to begin with.
For sure.
But okay, we're wrapping up time. So, Tanja, last thoughts.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just want to say I'm really thankful for this experience because I've always loved reading, and I think it's just we don't prioritize it enough in daily life, right? And I really try to squeeze in like some reads. And because it's always easier to look for social media, right? And then to watch something instead of reading something. But then I really, really enjoy reading. And I'm really thankful for this process because it has taught me, first of all, it's taught me so much more respect for everyone who ever wrote a book. And that actually to make it like a really good book it opened up a whole different sphere for me, that it's, everything you do is just so much work and so much attention to detail. And it has really actually also made me enjoy, reading books and reading more books so much more. So, and obviously writing. So I'm pretty sure we're going to be back in 10 years, and have the same conversation again. So, so I'm pretty sure about that.
Is the book officially out? Is it officially published?
It's officially published. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful.
So everywhere. Get this. My mission is to motivate more young women to go into consulting because it is just such a great career starter. And most women have a bit of are a bit skeptical because consulting, or business consulting specifically, has such a bro culture branding, in terms of, I'm going to be rich and successful and I have a big ego. But it's actually not, because the way what you can learn in consulting is just so much that you probably will not be able to learn anywhere else if you pick a business related topic that you want to work in, right? Obviously. So I can really recommend read this book, first of all, to set yourself up for success and check out where the pitfalls are. And then, get in consulting, do your 2 years, 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, maybe even 7 years like me, and then really have all the tools and everything necessary that you really feel confident to tackle whatever job you want to do, whatever, endeavor you want to start. If you want to be an entrepreneur like me, or if you really want to possibly also change the world in one way or the other, right? You will have the right tools to do so.
Yeah, I love that. So where should people come and hang out with you and just follow you along?
So people should come hang out with me. First of all, I have LinkedIn has been very popular, I've noticed, for many people wanting to get into consulting. So LinkedIn, we have Instagram, TikTok. I'm also on Twitter, but mostly probably LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok, I would say. So if you shoot me a message, also I will respond, and I'll try and do my best and help and support. And
Awesome. I would like a colored version of the book with your signature. Just putting that out there. Because I'm going to love on it. As soon as it gets here, I'm going to give it a big squeeze.
Ally, when we both have copies in our hands, we'll have to have a little an emotional moment in a future episode.
We will have an emotional moment. We'll take a screenshot. Yeah. And then we'll have some graphic designer person dress it up as a baby, and we'll look like proud mamas. Yeah. Tanja, it's been such a privilege working on your book with you. And I think you can tell by the way we've been gushing this whole episode how incredibly proud we are of what you've produced and how the book came out. And we're really excited for you. So congrats. You did it. You made it all these years later. It's out there. And obviously, whatever we can do to help support you, we're big fangirls. So you just reach out anytime. Thanks for doing this episode with us.
Thank you so much for all your support and all your help. I really, really enjoyed working with you. I had the best time.